Emma brought 2 men to my room. I made them follow my lead. They gave me everything, but it still wasn't enough, not even close. So I looked them in the eyes and said, "Don't hold back. Show me what you really can do." Before we dive in, make sure to like this video and hit subscribe if you haven't already. If this is your first time here, welcome. You picked a wild one to start with. Let's get into it. The water was hot, almost too hot, but I didn't care. I needed something, anything to take the edge off. I'd been chasing relief for minutes, moving in slow, focused circles, but nothing was happening. Not the way I needed it to. My back was pressed against the cool tile, chest rising and falling, lips parted in silence as I tried again. I went slower, then faster. Still no release. I adjusted my stance. One leg braced against the wall, trying a different angle. My palm flattened. My breath quickened, and I bit down on my lip when a tiny flicker of sensation sparked. But it faded just as fast. I let out a low, frustrated sigh and didn't stop. I kept going. I clenched, shifted, applied more pressure, hoping something would build. My skin grew hypersensitive, my body feverish, but nothing I did seemed to be enough. I even closed my eyes and tried to picture something. Someone. Anything that might finally carry me through it. But the images came and went like static. Too fuzzy, too far. My hands started to ache. Still nothing. I needed more. I was aching for it. It was like my skin was too tight, my pulse too high, and nothing, not even my own hands, could fix it. The need was there, screaming under my skin, but that tension refused to break. I let out a breathless groan and slammed the water off, annoyed with myself, with the boutique hotel in Miami, with the stillness of the night. I grabbed a towel from the hook and wrapped it around my chest with a little more force than necessary. The air in the room was cool against my damp skin. I padded over to the bed, dropped a fresh cloth over the sheets, and collapsed onto my back. My hair clung to my shoulders. My legs shifted restlessly beneath the wrap at my waist, and my chest rose and fell in shallow, irritated breaths. I was flushed, wired, and aching all over. It wasn't just boredom anymore. It was hunger, the kind that builds quietly until it takes over your whole body. My thoughts drifted to the man at check-in. Ethan, tall, lean, older. He barely looked me in the eye, but noticed everything. And his brother, Mason, broader, louder, with that grin that lingered a little too long. Neither of them said anything inappropriate, but they didn't have to. My eyes flicked to the phone on the nightstand. Was it too much? Too obvious? Maybe not. Maybe they could help. I reached out anyway, letting my fingers hover over the keypad for a second longer than I needed to. Then I picked it up and dialed the front desk of the Miami boutique hotel. The phone rang twice before someone answered. "Front desk," came the familiar voice. Calm, polite. The same one who checked me in hours ago. It was Ethan. "Hi," I said softly, letting the word linger. "I need help with something in my room." A pause. "What kind of help?" I smiled. "Could you come take a look? I think it's better if I show you." Another pause. Then, "Sure, be right there." I hung up before he could say anything else. Still wrapped in terry cloth, warm from the shower. I sat up and let my fingers drift along the edge of the fabric at my thighs. For a second, I considered changing. Maybe the thin tank top I'd packed or that old shirt I usually wore to bed. But I didn't move. This was enough. I walked slowly toward the door, letting each step settle me deeper into the moment. A knock came less than a minute later, then a second. Firmer one. I opened it. They were both there. Ethan stood slightly back, quiet, observant. His brother, Mason, was closer, broad and solid, his knuckles still raised from knocking. Their eyes dropped almost immediately. I watched them take in the soft wrap, the damp strands of hair, the warm glow behind me. "Something wrong in here?" Mason asked, his voice low but polite. I didn't move aside, just tilted my head. "That depends. Are either of you good at solving hands-on problems?" Their expressions changed. Just a flicker. But enough. Confusion gave way to something sharper, focused. I stepped back. Ethan moved first, slow and unsure. Mason followed, glancing between me and the room like he needed something to focus on. I closed the door behind them. The air felt heavier now, closer. They lingered near the wall, posture uncertain. I passed between them, the edge of the fabric brushing against my legs, their attention drawn to every step. "I didn't call because something was broken," I said. "I just didn't feel like being alone anymore." They didn't answer, still waiting, still unsure. So I made the choice for them. I turned to Ethan and stepped in. He looked at me, right at me, but stayed still. So I reached for his hand and placed it at my side, lightly, steady. He didn't pull away. His palm was warm, calloused, careful. Mason waited a moment, then stepped closer. His hand rested on my shoulder and slowly moved along my arm, testing the space I was giving him. I smiled. Let them feel how steady I was, how certain. Then, without a word, I let the wrap fall loose. It slid softly to the floor, and I kissed Ethan first. The kiss deepened the moment our lips touched again. I pulled Ethan closer with both hands at his collar, then broke away just long enough to grip Mason's shirt and draw his mouth to mine. Back and forth. I kissed them both, slow, deliberate, letting them feel just how much I was in control. Their hands hovered, unsure where to settle. So I took them, one at a time, and placed them where I wanted at my hips, along my waist, against the small of my back. I looked up at them, my breath warm against their necks. "Take it off," I said, nodding toward their shirts. All of it. They hesitated for only a second. Then Ethan pulled his shirt over his head. Mason followed, revealing solid shoulders, a wide chest, and a quiet urgency in the way his fingers moved. I didn't rush them. I wanted to watch. When they reached for me, I shook my head. Not yet. I lowered myself to the floor, slow and sure. I started with Ethan, my hands resting at his hips, lips parting as I invited him in. His breath hitched. His fingers paused, then gently threaded into my hair. But he didn't guide or press. I stayed in control. I set the tone. I teased him with my mouth, tracing soft circles, letting him feel each shift in pace. His thigh muscles twitched beneath my palms. I listened closely for every sound. I wanted to make him work to stay still. Then I turned to Mason. He was already wound tight, anticipation running through him. I let my hand explore first. Calm, deliberate. Before leaning in again, his breath slipped out, rough. I paused, then gave him the same slow attention, changing rhythm, adjusting touch, never offering too much at once, watching them respond, watching control unravel. I kept alternating, my lips on one, my hand on the other, careful and intentional. The air felt heavy with concentration. Every second moved to my pace, my choices. But inside, I was still hollow. What I stirred in them didn't stir anything back in me. I gave and still felt untouched, still unsatisfied. Bed, I said. Standing tall again. Now we moved together. Sheets rustled, limbs shifted, and I leaned back. But not to yield, only to lead. I stayed upright, pillows at my back, and gently pulled Mason between my legs, curling my fingers into his hair. He moved with quiet focus, gentle, steady. His mouth began to explore, soft and thoughtful. I closed my eyes and tried to let it carry me. Let it unspool the ache that had taken root. Ethan stayed near. I reached for him and brought him close, brushing my lips over him again, syncing one rhythm to another. The room was filled with breath and movement and the hush of shared effort. Their hands were steady, their mouths responsive, their focus unwavering. And mine stayed silent. I was flushed, too aware of everything, caught between wanting and waiting, like running through fog. I reached, but nothing ever met me. I shifted, held one tighter, encouraged the other with my touch, my breath, my body. Still no release. Frustration bubbled. Not at them, but at the craving that wouldn't ease. I let out a sharp breath and sat up. I eased myself into Mason's lap, settling down with a quiet exhale. His hands came to rest at my waist, like he didn't know whether to lead or follow. So I took the lead again. I began to move, rolling gently, directing every motion. My hands anchored on his shoulders, my legs locked in. I shifted my hips over and over, searching for something just out of reach. I leaned forward, bringing Ethan close again, and welcomed him into my mouth once more. They were all in, offering me touch, energy, presence. I had every part of them, and still I felt empty. I pressed down with more intention, let my mouth move with more purpose. My whole body tightened around the effort, repeating, hoping, needing. My breath caught. My body lifted. I hovered on the edge. And yet nothing gave. There was no shaking, no wave, just fire burning low and deep, but never breaking, overheated, unrelieved, swallowed by sensation and still starving for more. Don't hold back, I said, locking eyes with them. Push me past my limits. That was all it took. No hesitation. No second guessing. Something shifted, like they'd been waiting for permission. They moved fast. Together. I was turned, repositioned, drawn to the centre of the bed with a firm, practiced grip. Their hands were everywhere, steadying me, placing me on all fours, like I was meant to be there. Mason behind me, Ethan in front. Their presence closed in, solid and inescapable. Mason adjusted behind me. I felt his hands, firm at my waist, careful for just a breath. Then his body pressed close, forceful and sure. No more restraint. Ethan moved in front. His hand slipped into my hair. Not tentative this time. He brought himself to my lips again. More certain. More intense. I welcomed him without hesitation, adjusting as he leaned deeper. My throat caught. My fingers curled into the sheets. They weren't matching my rhythm anymore. They created their own, and I had to keep up. His motion carried forward, steady and unrelenting, making my eyes sting with effort. Behind me, Mason's hands tightened, guiding me closer as his rhythm grew heavier. I tried to let out a sound, but it disappeared into breath and movement and warmth. There were no questions, no gentle touches, and I didn't need either, because this was what I asked for. They moved in contrast, one guiding me forward, the other drawing me back. My arms shook from the effort of keeping up, but I didn't stop. They kept me close, held by momentum and urgency. When Ethan eased back, I gasped, only for Mason to pull me in tighter with renewed intent. His breath was ragged behind me, his grip steady. He wasn't slowing down, neither was I. My head dipped, my body curved inward. I lifted my gaze again, ready for the next wave. And they didn't make me wait. I barely had time to catch a breath before I felt their hands on me again. Lifting, shifting, turning me. Like they already knew exactly what came next. They didn't give me time to recover. Ethan pulled me upright, while Mason raised my hips, adjusting me with steady confidence. I was dazed, breathless, my body pliant as they turned me onto my back, head tipped over the edge of the bed, legs loose and hanging, every part of me exposed to their intent. I blinked at the ceiling, the world upside down, barely able to register the shift before they were on me again. Mason stepped between my legs, finding his rhythm without pause. His movement was firm and immediate, like he knew exactly how to unravel me. My hands gripped the sheets behind my head. Then Ethan leaned in, claiming my lips again with more urgency, guiding my breath as I adjusted to his pace. There was no control left, not even the illusion of it. I welcomed him as best I could, shifting with the motion, breath catching as tension climbed. My throat tightened, arms strained, breathing grew shallow. I couldn't speak. Every part of me responded, drawn in, swept up, alive. I tried to make a sound, but it vanished into heat and movement. A muffled moan stalled in my chest, caught beneath the pressure building in every limb. I trembled under the rhythm of their effort, unable to hold still. Then Ethan paused, holding steady, his presence pressed at my lips, firm but controlled, while Mason kept going, measured, deliberate, each movement carrying sensation further. And suddenly, everything gave way. The pressure I'd been chasing all night finally broke loose. It surged through me like a wave, sudden and all-consuming. My spine lifted off the bed. My legs jolted outward. I let out a sound I couldn't contain, fractured and raw, as the moment overtook me completely. My body jolted with every ripple, and tears streamed silently, slipping toward the floor. But they didn't stop. Mason stayed in rhythm. Ethan pulled back just enough for me to catch a breath, then leaned in again with a quiet, guttural sound that vibrated through my chest. I had just broken apart, and they were only getting started. I barely felt them move me again, somewhere between shallow breaths and scattered thoughts. Mason lay back on the bed and brought me with him, settling me across his lap, my legs still unsteady from what had just passed. My body followed without resistance, carried by instinct. I tried to steady myself, tried to catch up to the moment, but then I sensed Ethan moving behind me. His hands steadied at my waist, and then came something different. Lower, slower, unexpected. I inhaled sharply, not from pain, but from pure surprise. He moved with care, his motion deliberate and steady, easing into place like it was inevitable. My head dropped forward. Breath caught in my throat. Lips parted in disbelief as I adjusted to the new intensity. They surrounded me now. Mason beneath me guiding my motion, Ethan behind anchoring each shift in rhythm. It felt like my body wasn't mine anymore. Taken by motion, sound, and sensation I couldn't contain. They moved together, seamless, controlled, like they knew exactly how to pull me apart. My limbs reached without aim. My fingers slid across Mason's chest, trying to hold on. I made sounds I didn't expect, half sentences, breathless vowels. None of it made sense, but it didn't have to. Ethan leaned close, his breath warming my shoulder. His lips brushed skin, gentle, intentional, enough to draw a sound from somewhere I hadn't reached before. My hips twitched, my core braced. Every part of me answered before I could think. But they didn't slow. Their rhythm stayed unbroken, steady, relentless. I rested my forehead on Mason's chest, muscles limp, thoughts dissolving. My voice slipped out in a whisper. "Please," I said, not even sure what I needed, only that I didn't want it to end. They didn't lay me down. They lifted me. Mason's arms hooked beneath my thighs, Ethan's supporting my back. I was suspended between them, weightless, breathless, held aloft like I was nothing but need and surrender. My head dropped back, vision blurring, lips parted in disbelief. Then they moved again, together, aligned, steady. They returned to motion as one, Mason supporting from underneath, Ethan steady behind. There was no gentleness left, no pacing, just rhythm focused, powerful, unrelenting. My legs kicked through the air, my arms reached around shoulders I couldn't hold on to. Their grip firmed, keeping me centered, holding me in place as their rhythm carried through every part of me, washing away anything that came before. I cried out, not from pain, from everything. Their mouths found me in turns. Mason at my neck, Ethan pressing warm kisses to my chest. I felt lips graze, breath tremble, fingers tighten. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Their focus was total. So was mine. Every part of me was caught, lifted, moved, surrounded. I couldn't pull away. I didn't want to. I was theirs, and they knew exactly how to unravel me. My spine arched. My breath vanished. My whole body tensed. And then it happened. The second release rushed through me with startling force. It overtook me. Swift, electric, impossible to hold back. I sobbed through it, body jolting in their arms, legs suspended mid-air, no control left to hold on to. My voice cracked, my muscles twitched, and I let go completely. Still, they didn't stop. I couldn't speak. I couldn't form words, just gasps, just shudders, just the echo of everything they were pouring into me. And then I felt them change. Their rhythm faltered, their breath caught, their grip drew tighter, and with one final wave of motion, they broke. Groans pressed to my skin, their bodies shivering around me. They lowered me gently, finally letting go. I collapsed onto the bed, spent and shaking, limbs tangled, breath ragged, vision swimming. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. But for the first time all night, I didn't need anything more. The room fell quiet, save for the sound of our breathing, uneven and heavy. Mason lay beside me, his chest rising and falling, sweat beading on his skin. Ethan sat at the edge of the bed, his gaze distant, hands resting on his knees. I stared at the ceiling of the Miami boutique hotel, the dim light casting soft shadows across the walls. My body felt heavy, anchored to the sheets, yet a strange lightness settled in my chest. The hunger that had driven me all night was gone, replaced by a calm I hadn't expected. But as the silence stretched, a new feeling crept in uncertainty. What now I had called them here, set this in motion. But the aftermath felt uncharted. I shifted, propping myself up on my elbows. My eyes met Mason's first. His expression was unreadable, a mix of exhaustion and something else, caution, maybe. "You okay?" he asked, his voice low, rough from the effort of the night. I nodded, managing a small smile. "Yeah, you," he exhaled, a short, sharp sound, and ran a hand through his hair. "Yeah, that was intense." I turned to Ethan. He was still quiet, his eyes tracing the pattern of the carpet. "Ethan," I said, my voice softer now, testing the space between us. He looked up, his gaze steady but guarded. "I'm good. Emma, just processing." I sat up fully, pulling the sheet around me, suddenly aware of the cool air against my skin. The weight of what we'd done settled over me. Not regret, but a question. Had I pushed too far? They had given me everything I asked for, and more. But now the room felt different, the air charged with something new. I needed to know where we stood. That was what I needed, I said, my voice steady, deliberate. "Thank you, both of you." Mason shifted, sitting up beside me. His hand rested near mine, not touching, but close. "Glad we could help," he said, a faint grin tugging at his lips. "You don't mess around, do you?" I laughed, a small, genuine sound that broke the tension. "Not tonight, no." Ethan stood, stretching, his movements slow, deliberate. I should check the desk, he said, his tone practical but not cold. We left it unmanned too long. I nodded, watching as he pulled his shirt back on, his fingers moving with the same careful precision I'd felt earlier. "Ethan!" I called before he reached the door. He turned, one hand on the knob. "You're okay. Right with this." He paused, then gave a small nod. "Yeah, Emma, I'm okay. Just need a minute." He slipped out, the door clicking shut behind him. Mason stayed, leaning back against the headboard. "He'll be fine," he said, reading my expression. "Ethan's like that. Thinks too much after the fact." I tilted my head, studying him. "And do you think too much?" He chuckled, a deep, warm sound. "Not tonight. I'm still catching my breath." I smiled. But my mind was racing. The night had been a release, a breaking of boundaries. But now reality seeped back in. We were in a boutique hotel in Miami, a place of transient encounters. Yet this felt heavier than a passing moment. I wondered about them, Ethan and Mason, brothers working the night shift, pulled into my orbit by a single phone call. Who were they beyond this room? Did they wonder the same about me? I swung my legs over the side of the bed, still wrapped in the sheet, and stood. "I need water," I said, padding to the minibar. I grabbed a bottle, the cold glass soothing against my palm, and took a long sip. Mason watched me, his eyes steady, not intrusive but present. "You don't have to go," I said, turning back to him. "Not yet. I mean," he raised an eyebrow, a playful edge returning. "You sure thought you might be done with us?" I sat back on the bed, closer to him this time. "Maybe not. I don't know what happens next." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, his gaze direct. "Does anything have to? You called. We came. We did what we did. It doesn't have to be more than that, Emma." I nodded, but a part of me wondered. The intensity had bonded us, however briefly, and I felt a pull to understand them better. "Tell me something," I said, my voice quiet. "About you. Not this. Just you." Mason hesitated, then leaned back, his expression softening. "All right. I grew up here in Miami. Ethan and we've been close since we were kids. Our dad ran a small hotel, nothing fancy, but we learnt the business. I like the chaos of the night shift, keeps me sharp. Ethan's the thinker, always planning, always careful. Me, I just roll with it." I smiled, picturing them as kids, learning the ropes in a humid Miami lobby. "And now you're here, at this boutique hotel, dealing with people like me." He laughed. "People like you, you're one of a kind, Emma. Not every guest calls us up for hands-on help." I felt a flush creep up my cheeks, but I laughed too. "Fair enough. I'm not usually like this. You know, tonight was different." "I'd hope so," he said, his grin widening. "Wouldn't want this to be your average Tuesday." The door opened, and Ethan stepped back in, a bottle of water in his hand. He looked calmer, his posture less tense. "Desk is fine," he said, sitting on the chair across from the bed. "Quiet night, surprisingly." I met his eyes, searching for any sign of discomfort. "You sure you're okay, Ethan?" He nodded, taking a sip of water. "I am. It's just not every day we get pulled into something like this. Takes a second to reset. I leaned forward, the sheet slipping slightly. I meant what I said. Thank you. I needed this. And you both. You were there. Ethan's expression softened, a rare warmth in his eyes. You're welcome, Emma. It was unexpected, but I'm not complaining. We sat there, the three of us, in a quiet that felt less heavy now. The clock on the nightstand read past midnight, the Miami night humming faintly outside distant traffic, the murmur of the ocean. I felt a strange sense of connection, not just from the physicality, but from the raw honesty of the moment. I'd bared myself to them, and they'd met me without judgment. Stay a while, I said, looking between them. No pressure, just talk. Or don't, just be here. Mason glanced at Ethan, who gave a small shrug. We can do that, Mason said, settling back against the pillows. Got a few hours till the morning shift anyway. Ethan moved to the bed, sitting on the other side, his presence steady, grounding. Tell us about you, Emma, he said, his voice quiet but curious. What brought you to Miami? To this hotel? To this? I took a breath, the water bottle cool in my hands. I'm just passing through, I said. Came to Miami for a break, to escape routine. Work's been relentless marketing, long hours, endless deadlines. I needed to feel alive, to shake off the numbness. That's why I'm here. That's why I called you. They listened, their attention focused. No trace of the uncertainty from before. Mason nodded. Makes sense. Miami's good for shaking things up, and Ethan tilted his head. And did it work? Do you feel alive? I smiled, a real, unguarded smile. Yeah, I do, more than I have in months. We talked longer. The conversation shifting from personal to light favourite spots in Miami, the best late-night food, the quirks of hotel life. Mason shared a story about a guest who'd locked themselves out in just a towel, and we laughed until my sides ached. Ethan described the sunrise over South Beach, his quiet passion for the city shining through. The night stretched on, the intensity of earlier fading into a comfortable ease. Eventually, exhaustion crept in. My eyelids grew heavy, my body sinking deeper into the bed. Mason noticed, standing to stretch. We should let you rest, he said, his tone gentle. I nodded, reluctant but grateful. Thanks for everything. Ethan stood too, his hand brushing mine briefly, a quiet gesture. Good night, Emma. Sleep well. They moved to the door, and I watched them go, a mix of contentment and curiosity lingering. Hey, I called, just before they left. If I'm still here tomorrow night, will you be around? Mason grinned, glancing at Ethan. We work the night shift. You know where to find us. The door closed, and I lay back. The sheets cool against my skin. The room felt different now lived in, marked by our shared moment. I closed my eyes, the hum of Miami outside lulling me towards sleep. For the first time in ages, I felt not just satisfied, but seen. Now answer me if you were in that room. Could you keep up with me on your own? Or would you have needed backup too? Tell me in the comments. I'll be reading. And if you haven't already, hit like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss what comes next. Thanks for being here and for making this channel possible.